But that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, it is.
We're not going to legislate based on your opinion.
Of course we do. That's the only way you can legislate. Everything legislated is opinion. 100% of it. Everything. Everywhere.
No,
Society itself is an opinion,
I think that
man.
morality does have, and that there is such a thing as objective morality. And
And
yes, it
that
does have to start from identifying, perhaps subjectively, what is good and what is bad.
I made a chart, and I think that it's a good chart. The purpose of this chart is so that I think you and I can comprehend what's objective and what's subjective. I wrote this thing out a long time ago because I read something about it in a book. And then I started drawing it and I scribbled it all over a sheet of paper. And now I've made it somewhat nicer. I think at the bottom of this very cool looking chart, and it's here, is physical things.
Uh-huh.
Nature, elements, materials, all the things that exist. What is it made of? So, trees, wood, rocks, all things in the physical realm. You and I can argue about physical things, but it's not very easy. I mean, this desk is made of wood, you know? Physically, I have a desk made of wood. You and I can prove that. We can argue about that specific type of wood, but generally, we're both going to be agreeing. Hey, this is made out of wood. Hey, this is a rock. Hey, this is a tree. So
Okay.
we're going to have very few physical arguments about what is a tree, what is a rock, that kind of thing. Above the physical is the metaphysical. This, I think, is where a lot of our arguments happen. This is where measurements exist. This is where definitions exist. This is where the periodic table exists. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Is a metaphysical question.
Okay.
So it's what we're thinking about. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I mean, the internet loves that question. It is a metaphysical question. It's made out of bread. It has meat in the middle. Why isn't it a sandwich? It's a hot dog. Is a hot dog a sandwich? That kind of thing. If there is a thing made out of wood, imagine. Have you ever been to a restaurant where um, they have like a one of those old cable spools? You know the big wooden cable spools, but they've
Yeah.
turned it sideways, and now it's a table.
Okay.
And I'm leaning on it, and I'm drinking a beer, and a waitress brings me garlic fries and puts them on top of this very large cable spool. Is it a cable spool or is it a table?
Both.
Right. It can be both. Are both true statements. This is a cable spool.
And it is
Th-
being used as a table.
this is a table. Are both of those true statements?
Sure.
Okay. I would agree with you. And that is a metaphysical argument that we would have
Okay.
there. And then I've drawn the objective and subjective
Well, it
lines.
wouldn't be because objectively speaking, it is a table that is also, or that was formerly a cable spool.
Okay. That is an objective statement, I think.
Yeah.
And metaphysical, that's why I've drawn the red line here.
Or you could even say it's a cable spool that is being used as a table. And
Right.
both of those statements are true,
Hmm.
and they are true at the same time. I don't know if that's metaphysical necessarily,
Well, sure it is.
but
I mean, is it?
I'm being nitpicky.
Yeah, I know,
Go
I
ahead
know.
and
And that's
continue to
fine.
explain your chart. That's
That's
fine.
where we can have debates and arguments. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Is this a table or is it a cable spool? I think this is why I've drawn the red line here in between, because this is where the objective becomes subjective in this metaphysical block. The objective, hey, this is made out of wood, and we're using it as a table. You've now crossed the line into subjective. From
I don't think so.
the metaphysical, you get up into the ethics, the rules of conduct, societal norms, morals, values, fairness, what's right, what's wrong,
So I'm going to go ahead
ethics.
and disagree right off the bat
Okay.
with your placement of that red subjective objective
Hmm.
line.
You would like the line to be where?
quite a bit higher, I think.
Quite a bit higher.
Yeah. I
There,
mean, logic necessarily is something that should be objective because you are speaking about facts, right? And you are deducing more facts from facts. Logic
logic
is objective. Yeah,
is a thought process.
it is. Yeah, a logical thought process.
Logic doesn't exist.
Yes, it does.
Not in an objective stance. Subjectively, logic exists.
Logic is not
Objectively,
a physical property, but logic does exist. Yes,
logic
and it
exists subjectively. It does not
no, it certainly does
exist
not.
objectively. Can you fill this cup with logic? No. You cannot fill this cup with logic. You
You
can
are
use
okay. I see what your problem is. You are mistaking objective for physical.
objective
Those
is
two things are not
dealing
the
with
same.
facts. Objective deals with facts.
So does logic.
Logic is a thought process that you use to arrive at endpoints that are based
At a
on
factual
facts. Right.
conclusion
The logic
based on facts, right?
isn't. Logic is a thought process to arrive at conclusions about facts. Logic itself exists only within the human brain.
All right. I
There,
see the problem here. Again, you are 100% mistaking the physical with what is factual.
factual and physical are two different things. I recognize that. Objective has to deal with facts. And you can use logic to come to an objective conclusion. Yes. But logic is a thought process. And because logic is a thought process, it is subjective. You can have different types of logic. So, I think, yeah, everything above this red line is subjective. Societal norms, that's subjective. Those can change. Those can be rediscovered. Those can be argued, debated, changed, and something else. It doesn't actually exist. Ethics don't actually exist in the real world. That is a thought process that we have. Fairness, thought process. These are things that don't actually
Okay.
exist within the physical realm. Epistemology, logic, and aesthetics. You can't fill a cup with epistemology.
That's
Then,
physical. Filling a cup would be a physical thing, right?
Right. So we move up
Yeah,
from
I'm going
there
to
to
continue to say
politics.
that you are confusing objectivity with physical, with the physical. Yeah. I guess the easiest way to break you of that argument is in terms of law. You have law way up in the subjective, right?
Because it has to come through politics. You have to have
Now,
ethics.
if I look at the law, hold on. If I look at the law, and the law says it is illegal to obstruct a federal investigation and tell investigators that you don't have classified documents in your estate when you do, and then the investigators find that you do in fact have those documents. Have you objectively broken the law?
No.
So
Everything
it's not
above
a fact
that,
that you've broken the law.
it can be a fact that you broke the law.
Facts.
Well, can you
Being
factually
objective
break the
is
law? I don't know if you can factually break. Well, maybe we
okay.
can
So your
come
whole
to a
chart
fact.
is fucked up.
My whole chart is fine.
Because if it is a fact that you've broken the law, then objectively you have broken the law. Yes.
No. Well, wait, hang on. No, I don't think you can have factually breaking the law.
Are you fucking kidding me? What?
Right. Facts barely even exist above the red line.
It is a fact that the law exists, yes?
No.
What? What?
I'm going to look up fact. Fact is one of those shitty words that I don't think works very well. There are very few facts above that red line.
Dude, you're sounding like Bill Clinton right now. It depends on what the definition of is.
Right, because we're
Are you
having a
kidding me?
we're having a we're having a philosophical debate. Let me bring up my screen cap here, and I will make an
All right. I'll give you 7 definitions.
for
Knowledge or information based on real occurrences. Something demonstrated to exist or known to have existed. A real occurrence, an event. Something believed to be true or real. A thing that has been done, especially a crime. A conclusion
okay,
drawn by a judge or jury from the evidence in a case. Anything
okay,
done, an act, a deed, a feat.
okay.
In
Facts,
idiom, in point of fact,
facts. Okay,
in reality or in truth, actually.
okay.
Does the law
Facts.
exist in fact?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we can objectively say when someone has committed a crime.
No. I think you're drawing a conclusion between facts and objectivity that shouldn't be there. We can factually find someone has committed a crime. I'm going to say yes. Is that an objective truth? No. Because those laws are built on ethics and politics, not objectivity. We have moved up the chain from the objectivity into the subjective, what we apply these ethics, what we think about the law, how we discuss these things. Breaking the law.
Objective. A.
No. Okay.
Expressing or dealing with facts or conditions
Okay.
as perceived without distortion by personal feelings, prejudices, or interpretations.
That last part, that's the important part.
No,
You
that
can't
last
have the
part
law
literally
without
says
that
that.
part. You can't have the law without that last part. Say
What do you
that
mean?
second part again.
As perceived without distortion by personal feelings,
Perceived
prejudices, or interpretations.
prejudices and interpretations. All those prejudices and interpretations are the law.
So, to my original question,
Okay.
it is an objective truth that the law exists.
It is an objective truth that the law exists. No, I think it's a subjective truth that the law exists.
What? If I look up the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Constitution exists, yes?
The U.S. Constitution exists, yes.
Is the existence of the U.S. Constitution objective or subjective?
The literal parchment is objective.
Okay. And the words written on them,
Subjective.
their very existence,
They
not
are
the meaning of
subjective.
them, not the meaning of them, the existence of those words, objective or subjective.
The words themselves are subjective.
The parchment has ink on it, right? That has symbols on it that represent words.
If you are, if you comprehend them as words, yes.
Okay. And the words have meaning, right?
Yeah, meaning is right here, within the metaphysical layer. Definitions are within the metaphysical layer.
Now, different interpretations of that meaning
Mhm.
may be subjective,
Yes.
but the words are there, right?
There are words there. I would
Yes,
agree.
and that is objective.
The fact that there are words there, sure, that's objective.
Okay. I don't know why this is like pulling
Which,
teeth right now.
well,
Like,
because I don't. What I'm trying to get to is that there's very little objective. Objective things are only below this line. And we're using the word fact, and I think the word fact is a complicated word that has lots of different meanings and can jump up and down below, up and above and below this line. Fact can exist above and below the red line for me, I think. But ethics can't exist below the red line. Would you agree with that? Ethics, societal norms, cannot exist below this red line.
No, because I think that, and again, I don't think that ethics and morals are the same thing, so they don't believe they don't belong in the same box. Um, but no, I think that ethics being derived from morals. I think
Morals are
that
derived from ethics. You got it backward, I think.
no, the morals are the guidelines and the ethics are the rules that we set.
The
So
only
ethics are
reason you
based
have
on morals.
American morals is because you were born in America. If you were born somewhere else, you'd have different ethics being raised up. If you were born in Baghdad, your ethics would be different, and you would then learn different morals.
No, you have that backwards.
How do I
It's
have that backwards?
because the ethics are the rules that are set, and the morals are the guidelines for behavior from which we derive ethics.
No.
So it is, um, let's say, more morally speaking, it is wrong to take a bribe,
You're
right?
existing up in
Now,
this area.
hold
Okay.
on.
We haven't started at the
Morally
beginning.
speaking, it is wrong to take a bribe, but until we create a code of ethics that holds you to that moral principle, then it's not against the rules to do it. It's just wrong to do it. So the morals inform the ethics.
No. Absolutely not. The morals are an individual type thing. You can have an individual moral. Society doesn't have morals. Society has ethics. A society exists. You were born into a world, and that world is set up before you. And if that world that you're born into says uh, the bribery is wrong, then you will learn that moral from that world. The people, society will tell you this is not a good thing to do, and you cannot do that, and then you will have a moral that says I shouldn't do that because we have decided as a society that that's bad.
No,
If
you're describing an ethic.
Right, I'm describing ethics, which existed before you were born. You cannot have a moral until you're born. Morals are attached to an individual.
No,
You have morals.
I totally disagree with that
If you're
statement.
discussing societal morals, they're ethics. You're using the wrong term.
No, because you can have societal morals without actually setting established rules for them.
That's ethics.
The rules would be ethics, yes. The
No,
morals themselves,
even before the specific hard, that's law. Now you're discussing law.
no.
A rule that is enforced is a law. A moral that a society has is just an ethic.
There's a reason that when somebody takes a bribe, for example, we call it an ethical violation and not a moral violation. It's still bad either way to take that bribe, but the only reason we call it a violation of anything is when we call it an ethical violation because we have actually established those rules.
Okay?
So the
And the
morals have
only
to
reason,
exist first
no, they
because
don't.
for us
They
to
can't.
understand
They
what's
literally
yeah, no,
can't.
the
They
morals have to
literally
exist
can't.
first because we have to know right from wrong.
You don't
And
have
then
to know
when we
that.
know right from wrong, we can establish ethical rules
You're talking about
to
laws.
I'm not talking about
You
laws.
are. You're describing laws, not ethics.
And your chart is again in the wrong order. I don't think that your chart makes sense.
I think your definitions are wrong, which is a metaphysical argument.
I mean, you are
Which is how
welcome to.
this is I'm going to tell you that this is the issue you and I always come to, is that we disagree on a law, specifically like to pick one, gun laws, and then how did we get those laws? How did we get that gun law? Well, a politician put it in place, right? And that politician, how did that politician come to that answer? By his ethics and his morals. And how did that ethics and morals come about? From the metaphysical definitions, measurements of that thing. And then generally we don't disagree on the physical too much. Guns are made out of metal. Great. What do we do with that gun? What do we think about it? Well, you think that it's a defensive tool, and I think it's a murder machine. That is a difference in our thoughts. And if we have a different thought on that, we will come to different ethics. And if we have different ethics on that, we're going to vote for different politicians, and those politicians are going to pass different laws. That is
Yeah,
the
no, I think
train
that
of thought that I'm
I still
on.
think your train of thought is wrong.
Okay.
I think that you are building from a, well, actually, your tree is weird. Objectivity deals with facts.
I would agree with that.
We observe phenomena
Okay.
that even in our subjective experience,
hmm
we can recognize as fact. And that doesn't have to be something that is physical. Facts don't have to be a matter of the physical.
I'm on board with you
Um,
there.
okay. So,
Facts can exist up and down this thing.
okay. And objectivity, having dealt with facts, it doesn't make sense to draw a line at metaphysical. If you agree that facts can exist up and down that whole spectrum, then the line doesn't make sense. To point subjective up and objective down is incorrect.
I'm looking up the definitions for subjective. For subjective, it says existing in the mind belonging to the thinking subject rather than the object of thought. The object, yeah. So subjective, belonging to the mind. Objective, belonging to facts. Everything above this line is
Our
thought.
mind
Is thought.
must
Everything above
interpret
that,
facts.
yeah.
Okay.
There are
And the
subjective
fact that we interpret
facts.
it does not make those facts subjective.
Comprehending a rock doesn't make it a subjective rock. No, I agree.
Okay.
But there are a
So,
lot of subjective facts. What do we call them? Does justice exist?
yes,
Okay, great. Is it on the subjective or the objective side?
objective.
I can't even fucking imagine how. How does justice exist objectively?
Well, justice is derived from our laws, and
Which,
at
again,
least hopefully,
don't
our
really
laws
exist.
are
Those are
derived from
subjective,
a morality,
which is
and
subjective.
morality is objective.
All of these things are subjective.
No.
Even the justice. Justice. Can we disagree? Can you and I disagree on what justice is? What is justice? Can you and I
Yeah,
have a disagreement on that? Can we measure it?
certainly,
No,
except that
we can't
one of us can be
measure it.
right and one of us can be wrong.
Right and wrong are subjective.
No, they are not.
Yes,
If
they
you,
absolutely
they are
are.
absolutely not. If you say look, even on the physical, hey, my table's made of wood.
Okay,
If
great.
I say,
Table's made of
no,
wood.
it's not, is
You
there
and
a right and wrong there?
yes, because that's objective. It's below the objective line. You can be right
No,
and wrong
I don't give a
below the
fuck about
objective
the
line.
objective line. You just asked me based on whether or not two people disagree on something, that the fact that they can disagree on it makes it subjective. I just proposed to you
Mm-hmm.
a scenario in
Mm-hmm.
which an obviously objective truth would, under your definition that you just gave, would be subjective.
What? No. You and I can
No, I've
have a
just broken your
discussion.
definition.
No, I don't think I'm spun around a little bit because I'm fucking still mad at this computer for not doing what I want. Um, you and I disagree on whether or not the table is made of wood. That
Uh-huh.
can be tested. It can be measured. It can be determined to be correct or incorrect. You and
Yes.
I disagree on what's right and what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There is no measurement for that. Where's the measurement for right and wrong? Where is
Well,
the
sure.
where is the ruler that measures right and wrong? There isn't one. There's no such thing. The only
If
thing we can
we
do is
hold
argue
on,
our ethics and our logics and our aesthetics and our societal norms. We can argue those things, but those things are subjective because they
well, I'm
have
gonna
to
go
deal
ahead.
with our feelings and our emotions.
I'll ask this: do words have meaning?
Metaphysically, yes. Objectively, no. And that's why I put
Morality.
morality. It has a definition.
Okay. What is the purpose of morality?
What is the purpose of morality?
Yeah.
It's a term that we've come up with. It is a metaphysical choice we've made. The purpose of morality. We study morality so that we can help to determine what is right and what's wrong.
Starting from morality, all right? If we say, should we have morality?
Should we have morality? That's so far up the chain already that you've skipped a whole bunch of
I
steps.
already
But
told you I don't agree with your chain.
okay, you can't start it. Should we have morality? That's a terrible place to start. But should we have morality? Yes.
Do we agree that furthering of human society and human accomplishment is a good thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Subjectively, assuming that we agree that the progress is going forward. Again, I'm basing this off of my opinions. You're basing it off of, or I'm basing it off of my feelings. You're basing that off your feelings, even though our feelings might not be the same because we're
Okay.
subjectively agreeing with each
Sure.
other so far.
Some people may decide that it is bad for society to progress, and so we should bomb every city in the world. Is that just subjectively bad to do?
Bombing a whole bunch of other people?
Yeah. Is it subjectively
Subjectively,
bad or is it
that's
objectively bad?
that's subjectively bad.
Interesting. So when
I
it comes
feel
to,
like that's a bad thing to do. So subjectively, based on my feelings, killing a
well,
bunch of people is
I do
bad.
think that what you've just said, it exposes you to the problem that anytime you don't like something
Hmm.
and you think or know that it's wrong to do, and someone asks you why is it wrong,
Hmm.
the only answer that you have is because I don't like that in the end.
No, I can make yeah. You're right. Killing people is bad and it's wrong and I don't like it.
Why?
Why? Because I think that it's important to give everyone freedom.
Why?
Why? Because I like that. I think that that's a good thing.
Okay, but that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, it is.
We're not going to legislate based on your opinion.
Of course we do. That's the only way you can legislate. Everything legislated is opinion. 100% of it. Everything. Everywhere.
No,
Society itself is an opinion,
I think that
man.
morality does have, and that there is such a thing as objective morality. And
And
yes, it
that,
does have to start from identifying, perhaps subjectively, what is good and what is bad.
so it's based on
Um,
subjectively. You just
it's
laid the
fine.
first brick and it's subjective. And then you're
That's
going to
fine.
tell me it's objective later? You just laid the first brick and it's subjective.
What does so back to my first question, what does morality serve, or what purpose does morality serve? I'd say it creates stability, right? It provides security, fosters trust, facilitates cooperation,
Okay.
right? And those things enable us to grow as a society, for society to um, progress, right?
Okay.
So if we accept that meaning of morality, right, or at least the purpose of morality,
Okay.
then measuring actions or behaviors or the laws that we create against whether or not they serve those purposes or not, we can objectively say whether or not something is moral or not.
No.
If we
You
accept that
can measure
definition,
them and you can accept them, but you can't say it's objective.
sure I can.
You
Yeah,
can, but I'm subjectively telling you you're wrong. Like,
if that is what morality is meant for, then when we look at behaviors and laws and whatnot, we can determine whether or not they're moral or not. So, for example,
sure, you can
in terms
determine
of a
morality.
behavior,
Hmm.
right? It, if we look at a behavior such as, let's say that your neighbor asks you if they can borrow one of your power tools. and they promise to give it back after they're done with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really hurt you to give them that power tool. So morally, not a big deal to give them the power tool. You probably should, especially if they're going to do something that helps the whole community, right?
Sure, that sounds moral to me.
Okay. Now, let's say that your neighbor takes that power tool and does the project, but then doesn't give it back. Is that moral or immoral?
I would say that's immoral, yes.
Okay, why is it immoral?
Because that is, I think, that is, in my mind, a rude and bad thing to do. You've taken something that doesn't belong to you. I think that's a bad thing. You see, well, I feel subjectively like that is an incorrect thing to do. You see how I subjectively came to that conclusion?
Well, if if I accept the purpose of morality, and one of the purposes of morality is to foster trust, then I can say it is an objectively immoral thing to do not to return my power tool that you promised to return.
Wait, what? Sorry, run that by me one more time.
So, if it is true that the purpose of morality, if one of the purposes of morality is to foster trust,
Okay.
then not returning my power tool is objectively, again, immoral
No,
because
it's subjectively
it
immoral.
no, it's
Yes.
the
Trust is a feeling.
definition.
Trust is a feeling. Moralities are feelings. They are not objective. They are feelings that we have. We have those feelings because we are brought up in a certain ethical uh, structure. And because we have that ethical structure and that structure exists within the society, those morals are impressed upon us. And then when someone does something wrong, you feel like they're wrong. That
No,
doesn't make it not real, but it makes it not objective.
I think that it makes it's very real.
It's
Um,
very real. I agree. It's real. Justice is real. Mercy is real. Stealing is real. But they are
mhm.
not
and
objective
and doing
things.
that erodes trust, right? That
Trust,
person is going to be
another
less
subjective
trusting.
thing. Okay,
Hold
great.
on. That person is going to be less trusting of the next person that asks to borrow a tool from them,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Okay. So it is true factually that that person will be less trusting, right?
I would say that yes, they are less trusting, and they have the feelings of being less trusting, and feel like they've been burned in the past, and so they don't want to do this thing again. Those are all
Yes,
feelings, I think.
that's not
I don't
feelings.
think that's
All animals have
objective.
pattern recognition, including humans.
I don't think that's objective. I feel like this guy's going to rob me isn't an objective. It's a subjective situation.
That part would end up being subjective in the end, yes. That
Okay.
instant decision of whether or not I feel like I should give somebody my next tool that they ask for,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the act of stealing that tool, the previous guy stealing that tool, is what caused the change in that person's subjective behavior.
Okay.
And you do this on a societal level enough times, and you have a society that is less trusting. That's why we have morals. It's because it's when you follow the moral code of conduct, you get the society that is trusting,
Okay.
that
I
does cooperate.
agree.
Okay,
That doesn't
and
make it objective.
it certainly does. It makes it,
No,
yeah,
that's
yeah. It
not
makes it
objective.
way more objective um, than any system that you're proposing right now.
I'm. Is it? It's not objective. It's just not. Is it right? Great. Yes. Is it good? Yes, good. Not objective.
I suppose that the entire basis of your argument here is that good and evil themselves then must be subjective.
Yes, they are. For sure.
I disagree.
You can't objectively have good and evil. You can't. It doesn't work.
Sure you can.
No, you can't. You would
Killing
have to.
someone.
That is subjectively wrong. It's not objectively wrong. It can't be.
No, I think it can. I think that there is such a thing as good and there is such a thing as evil.
Can you fill a
And
cup
they are
with
not
good and
subjective.
evil? You can't.
That's you're
Because
relating objectivity to physical again.
I know, because it's not an object. It has to be within your human brain. If it exists only within the human brain, it's subjective. If there were no humans and only earthworms on the planet, would they still be able to do good and evil?
No, but that's because they don't have a conscious experience. They are
Conscious
not sapient.
experience, sapience, exists only within your brain. So good and evil exist only within your brain.
Your starting point is far too it's far too early in the scenario. Yes, we have sapience, therefore we do have the capability of governing ourselves, and we should be able to look objectively at what things further humanity and what things make it worse.
That what makes better or worse is inside your brain again. Objectivity, number 2, intentness on objects external to the mind. External reality. For objectivity.
Is it an external reality that stealing that power tool is going to reduce that person's trust next time someone asks them for a power
The
tool?
trust only exists within
No.
internal.
Is it an external reality from the person that commits the theft? Is an external reality that next time you ask for a power tool from that person, they will not give it to you.
That's internal.
That is external.
It's internal. The object that he's moving around is external. The theft exists only within your human brain. Theft itself only exists within the human brain.
No, other animals can comprehend theft as well.
Because they have not human brains, but they have some comprehension of brains. They are less sapient than we are. If you take a thing away from them, their brain knows that it's been taken. Ownership exists only within the human brain. All of these things exist. No, ownership only exists within the human brain. There's no way to objectively own a thing. We all have to feel like you own something. I feel like I own this house because I live in it and I have paperwork that says I own it. If you don't comprehend the English language or the human laws, then I don't own anything.
I think that your definitions of what are subjective and objective are so broad that they are to be meaningless. Because, technically speaking, even the fact that I can see a wooden desk and comprehend it as a wooden desk makes the fact that I recognize it as a wooden desk as subjective. Because
the desk is subjective, yeah.
The fact of recognizing
desk is subjective.
Is a subjective.
Yes.
It's something that exists in my brain.
Desk is a subjective.
The light particles went through my eyes. And
that's
went
physical.
To my brain, and my brain had to process it, and then I recognized, and then I thought desk.
You thought desk. That's subjective.
And it's made of wood.
Desk is subjective in this situation. Yes, it is. Because what if I sleep on it? Is it still a desk? I'm asleep on it. What if I cover it in mayonnaise and try and eat it? Is it still a desk? Subjective. Which is why I have the red bar where I have the red bar. Because even the word desk is metaphysical. You and I comprehend what a desk is and what it's for. And why do we comprehend what a desk is and what it's for? Are desks part of the natural world? No. Is the definition of desk something that we just find out in the universe, in nature? Can I look at Mercury in the sky and find desks? No. So they have to have been made and formed and measured and definitionally. What is a desk? Just like on this metaphysical thing. What is a desk is a metaphysical question.
It's so absurd.
How is that absurd?
I mean, it's like what Kyle
How is
just
that
said.
absurd?
Reality is subjective.
Reality
No,
is, well,
I don't think it is.
I don't think reality is subjective. The way you perceive it is subjective. Desks are subjective.
I mean, if a tree falls in the woods and it doesn't make and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Right. This is pretty hard stuff that no one has been able to answer. Did the sound waves exist? Sure, probably. Did the waveforms happen but inside the air molecules? Yes. But did it make a sound? Sound exists only within the human mind.
All right, I'm going to suggest
Mm-hmm.
that you have to accept a certain number of preconditions in order to have any basis to say that anything is good, right or wrong or good or bad. And you have to accept those presuppositions first before you're able to talk about objectivity at all.
Okay. And
Okay,
we
so this
have to
nonsense that
go
you're
about
talking
them
about right
through
now,
this. We have to go up this tree. We have to go up this tree.
no, we don't.
Yeah.
And the nonsense that you're talking about right now, like you're getting to the point, I think, where literally anything is subjective because it's processed in our brain. I
That's why
think
the
that we
line
have
is so
to.
low. Yeah. Anything
I think it's
processed in your
ridiculous.
brain anything that your brain produces is subjective.
I think that we have to go with the presuppositions that, in general, well, we'll start from the base one. I think, therefore I am.
I love it. Rene Descartes. I think, therefore I am. It's a very good statement. I agree with it.
Okay, is your existence therefore because you think, therefore you are?
Hmm.
Is your very existence subjective?
Yes. I could stop thinking. Probably will one day.
And
And I
when
will
you stop
cease to be.
thinking, you therefore will not be.
I will no longer be. I no longer am. This is a very complicated metaphysical discussion that we're having right now. Because you and I are using a language with definitions. You and I are using language with measurements. And by doing so, by saying that I think, therefore I am, I can now move up the tree and come up with ethics.
All right. And do we have, with this language, would you say that the requisite presuppositions are met to have created and used this language?
At the moment, you and I are agreeing on most definitions and most language, yes.
Okay. So we agree on definitions. We
To,
agree that the
to an
words
extent.
have meaning.
Words have meaning that we give them, yes. Because we gave those words meaning.
Okay. But we understand words to have meaning, right?
Yes.
All right. So when I look at those meanings
Mm-hmm.
and I take those meanings and I compare those meanings to actions and behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
I can assign words to those actions and behaviors, right?
Sure.
Is the assignment of those words to an action or behavior generally subjective or objective? If we accept that the word has meaning in the first place.
It's subjective.
Bull fucking shit.
Because
The
I can
word,
use a different word. I use words to
Holy
describe
fuck.
people, and you don't
The
like
word
those words.
kill. If you kill somebody, we understand what the meaning of that word is, right?
You and I can comprehend because we have we speak the same language to the word kill. Sure.
Okay. Somebody
That's
that
a
doesn't speak the
subjective.
word, somebody that doesn't speak our language,
Uh-huh.
if they see you kill somebody, do they understand what has happened?
Do they understand what has happened? Yes.
Okay. So the reason that we gave that word that meaning in our language is because there is a fundamental understanding of something that has happened. Words have meaning.
Words have the meaning that we give them. Sure. Words aren't magical. I mean, they are kind of magical, but they're words aren't universal.
They
Words
don't have to be
have
universal.
Okay,
The
great. So
fundamental action of killing somebody is is universal whether or not you understand the word kill or not.
we
The
can suggest
the thing that
objectively,
happens
I put a knife in
happens
somebody.
objectively.
I The thing that happened objectively. Yes. I'd call that a physical thing. I put a knife in someone. Great. That's physical. That's objective.
And they died.
And they died. Yes, physical.
And we have a
Materials,
word
nature, elements.
for a word to explain what happened.
You're moving up the chain. It's working. You've given a definition to the action that I took. The definition, you've used the word kill, and we've agreed on a definition. Excellent. What happens after that? We need
The
to determine the ethics of that killing, don't we? We need to determine the
No, we don't,
morality of the things that
because
I
we
have
have
done.
to we already so the
We
thing
have
is
to.
that we start
You're
with
working the chart.
morality.
You're working the chart, my boss. No,
I
we
am
didn't
not.
start with morality. We started with a knife going into somebody. The knife went in somebody. That happened. That is physical. That's what happened. Metaphysical. We have a definition for for the actions that I took. The action that I took was murder. Great. Now we need to discuss the ethics and the moralities of that murder. Was I justified in doing such a
No, I
thing?
think that
Justify fits right here within the ethics. Fairness. Was I fair in killing that person? Was I right or was I wrong in doing so?
your logical thought process here, um, I don't agree with. But in the first place, you have to know all of the words that you're using in order to come up with this train of thought.
Sure. I would agree that I have to know the word ethics before I can put it on a chart.
Uh-huh. So is your chart subjective?
Yes. This chart is highly subjective. You and I are about to argue about the definition of fairness. You're telling me where the line, that red line, ought to be. This chart is subjective. It was produced by the human brain. It's subjective. We're working our way up it. So let's continue working our way up it. Okay? You and I need to discuss the morality, the ethics, the value of my murder. We've given it a definition right there. Definition, murder. And we're moving our way up. What are the ethics? Did I do it for a bad reason? Was I right to do that murder? Was I wrong to do that murder? There are right murders and there are wrong murders, yeah? Or there are right killings and there are wrong killings.
Yeah, there is no such thing as a right murder because
Right
murder has a
murder.
definition.
Right, because that has a
Um,
different definition. I agree.
yeah,
We're working
killings
it.
a
That's
little
an
different.
ethics. Killing,
Um,
there could be right killings. There could be soldiers who fight. There could be
except that,
defensive
hold on,
things.
when we come as a society to these conclusions, right?
We haven't gotten
When
to any
we when
conclusions
we
yet. We're not even
determine,
at conclusions
wait,
yet.
wait, wait. I mean, in terms of like, what is a murder versus what is a homicide versus, what
What
is
is a war? What is an acceptable thing in a war? What is a war crime? What is a self-defense? What is not? These are all within this
right.
ethics bound.
Once,
They're all within
all
this
right,
ethics
I'm going to
box.
make a suggestion to you.
hmm
Once we have completed this thought process,
hmm
right? We've moved all the way up
hmm
this this tree of yours.
Okay.
Okay. Once we've completed the whole tree,
hmm
what you can then do is you can look at what we have all agreed upon,
hmm
right?
hmm
And then you can look at the actions someone takes,
hmm
and you can say, and if those actions meet the standard of something that we have agreed upon, for example, murder,
Mm-hmm.
we can objectively say, you have committed murder.
I don't think so. I don't think we can use the word objective at that point because we've gone through all of these subjective steps. If you go through 10 subjective steps to come to a conclusion, you can't call it objectively correct.
I would say that you are building a framework, and measuring something against that framework. Uh, if you accept the framework as valid, then measuring something against it makes that very measurement objective. The framework itself doesn't necessarily have to be objective if you don't accept that. But objectively, if we work within a framework, then there are things that we can measure against it, that we can objectively say, hey, against this subjective framework, if that's how you want to put it, this is right and this is wrong.
Yes, we can work this tree and come up with what is right and what is wrong. Yes. Right and wrong is still subjective. Because you could go back down and argue your side, how you got up this tree, and which directions you took. So, from ethics,
I
I'm
think that
gonna keep working
I
the
think
tree, and then
that
we'll come back down.
I think that working that tree
Mm-hmm.
is the I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to build that framework.
Yeah,
Okay.
building a framework.
I think that if we are able to take facts and derive our framework from it,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So if we say that killing is bad and why, well, because it harms our society.
Right, we're at
It
the ethics part. So we think that it's bad. The morals that our society have and the morals that are impressed upon us when we're in a part of the society is that this is not fair, it's not good, it's not right. We have this killing isn't just a killing, it's a murder. Okay, then we have to move up to politics. Those politics. How do we apply those ethics? How do we decide? How do we determine that the rules for killing are what the rules for killing are within a society? So you have to have representatives, elections, votes, and how do we decide how to apply the ethics that we just agreed upon down here? Let's imagine there's 100 people and they all agree on the ethics. They now have to have some sort of politics involved with the people in charge or setting a representative who decides whether or not things are ethical, and then that politician creates the law. And that law is enforced by the courts, enforced by the police. And if the law is incorrect, who changes it? Judges, who are kind of elected. I mean, judges are in between these two boxes, honestly, because they're elected politically and they determine the law. And most politicians are lawyers. That is the tree. So if we take the murder that I've physically put a knife in somebody. We have determined that the definition is murder. We have decided that the ethics are that I should not have done such a thing, and that is a right or wrong, that is a wrong thing. Then the politicians have decided, hey, here's the ethics that we are going to apply to our society, and the law says because of these ethics that have been applied to the society, here's your punishment, here's what's going to happen. What is allowed and what is not.
What do you think of this statement then? A subjective statement
Mm-hmm.
is still a descriptive statement that is determined to be true by reference to facts. It's simply a descriptive statement referring to facts about our inner states, our desires, our sentiments, as opposed to something in the world. To claim that moral judgments are subjective is to claim that they are true or false based on how a particular person feels. And that's not how most of us regard moral judgments.
Then most of us are wrong. If that's not how most of us regard moral judgments, then most of us are wrong. I mean, most of the world is religious, and I think that most of them are wrong. If you are using a subjective statement to describe a factual thing, that's fine. I'm trying to work my way through your quote there. You can use subjective language to describe an objective thing, obviously.
Well, the reality is that there is a core set of moral norms that almost all humans accept, right?
There is a core set of moral things, yes, right here, within the ethics, that most humans accept, yes.
And we couldn't live together otherwise, probably.
I agree. That's not objective. That is
So,
subjective.
in order for us to live together and prosper,
Hmm.
we have to follow those norms.
If you want a society to work, yes.
Okay. Is the existence of a society objective or subjective?
The existence of a society, if you're just saying, hey, here's a photo of a society and there's 1,000 people living there, then that's an objective society. But what the society's doing is all subjective. What they're thinking, what they're pushing, what norms exist within their society is based on ethics and subjectivity.
If we accept the purpose of morality, right, to foster trust, to encourage cooperation, etc.,
Okay, yeah, good.
then if we regard morality as a set of practices that has those functions,
Hmm.
then not every norm is going to fall under the purview of morality, right? If
I
we
can
look at those
see that.
uses, right,
A societal norm
then
of something that isn't exactly immoral could be fine.
okay, so like a societal norm of let's say that we lived in a society where there was a norm of lying to other people and betraying them.
Okay, if that's
And we objectively say that that is an immoral norm.
you can't objectively say something is immoral. You can't. You can't say objectively this is moral and objectively that isn't moral. You can't.
Well,
They're not
that's the
objectives.
thing though, is if we
Morality is subjective.
if we generally accept the function of something and then something goes against the function of that thing, then it is by definition, factually, not within the definition of that thing. Right? So if
Okay.
I punch somebody,
You're all right. We're here. We're back at the
okay,
physical.
if I punch
Your
somebody,
physical hand has hit someone else.
and someone says I killed that guy,
Metaphysical definition
did I kill that guy?
from a definition, possibly yes.
No, I
If
punched that guy. He's still alive. Objectively, he's still alive. If I
okay,
punch somebody and someone else
Then
says
we
I
go back
killed
down.
him,
Okay.
hold on. If I punch somebody and someone says I killed him, is that
But he didn't actually die.
true or false?
You can, yeah, false.
Okay, except that the word "kill" you just said is subjective.
Of course it is.
So what I mean when I say that you are going way too far back in the tree, when I say that we have to have certain presuppositions, right? Those presuppositions include we have to agree on what words mean,
Right.
and then when we apply those words, we have to apply those words relatively uniformly.
Yes. You and I have very many on this channel metaphysical discussions and arguments and disagreements. We have many metaphysical disagreements, you and I. Because how often do you and I disagree with definitions?
Oh, plenty, but that's because you usually are just wrong on your definitions.
Because I'm metaphysically different than you are. You and I have chosen different metaphysical stances. You and I are standing in different places within the metaphysical box. And if we're standing in different places within this metaphysical box, then what happens after that? Our ethics are different. Do you and I have different ethics? I would suggest that we do. And if we have different ethics, then we're going to get different politics.
Well,
And
maybe,
if we have
but I
different
think
politics,
if we
we're going to push
agree
for
on the
different
definition of
laws.
morality, or at least the purpose of morality, then then um, we can definitely measure behaviors and make moral judgments against that, the purpose of morality.
Great. Purpose of morality. Morality is a thing that is real. It's not objective, but it is subjectively real. And I'm on board for morality.
Do you think
Discussing the
that
morality of certain things is
through
fine.
through discussing it, could we end up coming up with a set of facts that something is moral and something is not moral?
I don't think you can have moral facts. Facts aren't moral. Facts are facts. How you feel about that fact is the morality. How you, uh, the fact, there's a fact, we see it, we comprehend it within our brain, we do a metaphysical analysis of that thing and how it affects us and how we feel about it and what we think about it and how it ought to be defined and measured. And at that point, we have left the objective. Once you start looking at what a thing is and determining how it affects you, you are now in subjective territory.
I don't think that you even agree with the argument that you're making.
How do I not agree with the argument I'm making? I love my arguments. I have thought about them quite a bit.
Um, let's put you back in time.
Let's go back in time. I'm going to work this
Yep.
tree, man. I didn't come up with this tree out of nowhere. This is literally the thought process. But we're going
And
back in time.
I'm going to transport you to Germany in 1940.
Excellent. It is 1940. I've woken up. It is a beautiful German day.
In the middle of war.
In the
Yeah,
it's
and the Holocaust
1940,
is
so the war is already happening.
Yeah.
Am I just being born, or am I already a grown man?
No, you're you right now,
Okay, I've
and
been
I transport you
teleported.
there.
Great.
Um, and you know what's going on, or rather, you'll find out if you don't already.
I'm a time traveler. I know what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember Germany in the
Um,
1940s being a bad place.
are they objectively wrong, well, actually, before I ask that, are they wrong for what they're doing?
Are the Nazis wrong for what they've
Yeah,
done?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, are they?
Subjectively,
Okay.
they're wrong. You can be subjectively correct and subjectively wrong. Nazism was subjectively wrong.
Do you think that they think that they're wrong?
No, they don't think they're wrong.
They think that they're right,
They
right?
think that they are subjectively correct.
But are they
And
correct?
in their failing to comprehend proper philosophy, they will tell you they're objectively correct. They're also wrong about that.
Do you think so? You know that they're wrong, but
Subjectively, I think that they are, yes.
I think that no. I think that your judgment on that is an objective judgment.
No. I feel. I think
I think that what
that
you're
they are wrong.
doing is you're seeing is you see what they're doing,
I see what
right?
they're doing. Mm-hmm.
And you are measuring it against what you understand to be moral.
I'm measuring it against what I think and what I feel. Those morals are based on my metaphysics, sure. My morals are based on metaphysics. I feel like the Nazis of Germany 1940 are subjectively wrong. They have bad morals. Their ethics are incorrect. Their societal norms are not good. I
But you only
feel
think that
like
because you
that.
feel that way.
Right.
I'm gonna
Yes.
take a
They
step
felt
further
like
and
it was
say that
correct. They
I'm
felt
gonna
it
take a
was
step further.
great.
Hold on, I'll take a step further and say that even if you didn't exist, I would still say they were wrong. And I think that overall, the objective morality does exist. And even if none of us were here right now and they were the only society that existed, it would still be wrong for them to do that.
Who's going to have that thought in their head? If you aren't here, and I'm not here, and they're the only people, then who's having the thought? Who's telling them they're wrong? It can only exist within a human brain.
It
You can't remove yourself entirely from the universe and then judge the universe. If you removed yourself entirely, you wouldn't be here. You have removed you and me and everyone else from the equation, and now we're judging the equation? We can't. We don't exist any longer.
I mean, you're making. I'm gonna have to go all the way back to fucking Plato, and now I have to
Those
fucking
motherfuckers
find.
couldn't figure this out. I would love for you to bring that up because they couldn't figure this out either. If Aristotle and Plato and Socrates couldn't figure out what you and I are talking about, what makes you think that Michael Knowles has?
I haven't.
I
I have
know.
made an objective.
I know.
Hold on a
I'm
second.
sorry.
I'm making the point that objective morality exists. Michael Knowles does that on the basis that he believes that God exists, and actually, if you do take God exists as something that is true, that is factual, then it makes a lot of sense that you can have an objective morality. But I don't necessarily agree that that's the way you should take it, because then you have all these religious people or non-religious people that don't believe in God. So I try to build a moral foundation from elsewhere. And I do think it's possible, but I think that you ever
That
heard, like, I think that you're so far back on in terms of the philosophy of what is and what is not that I don't think it. I'm starting to wonder if the conversation is worth having before we even build up to that point in the first place. Like, the whole concept of like the chair, for example,
hmm
is like an abstract object.
What's a chair?
Um,
What is not a chair? This is
if all
metaphysical.
humans were
Great.
to disappear from the world, does a chair still exist,
Metaphysically, you could make an
or
argument that they
does
don't.
or but the physical object is there, right? Like,
That's a bunch of wood and metal. Physically, it's wood and metal. Metaphysically, it holds my butt. What we think about the things that exist, that's the metaphysical. Plastic exists, but turning it into a chair is a metaphysical exercise, just like that table, just like the spool that I mentioned earlier. It's made out of wood. Physically, it's wood. Metaphysically, I'm putting a beer on top of it and leaning on it and then talking to people. It's now a table.
does 2 + 2 = 4?
That is a measurement. So it exists metaphysically. Numbers are metaphysical. That's probably gonna you're probably gonna argue with me, and I have to talk to tech bros about this every once in a while. Um, math is metaphysical.
Your starting point is so devoid of the requisite presuppositions
Right.
to
That's the
do
point
any
you
of it.
want to get to, man. Get below all those presuppositions. Stop presupposing. Get
You
below
have
them.
to presuppose.
No, you
In
don't.
fact,
You don't.
like I brought up earlier, you do have to presuppose at least one thing. I think, therefore I am.
I think, therefore, I
That
am.
is a
I can.
presupposition.
I
So
can.
you have to accept at least one. I am suggesting you should accept a few more so that we can actually have a reasonable conversation on this subject.
Prove to me that you think. You can't. Let's hell, I'll go under that one too.
I
I
could.
think, therefore I am. I don't hear your thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are. The only way I can get your thoughts is for you to verbalize them in a language that I comprehend, metaphysical. The only way you and I can have a discussion is in the metaphysical layer. We can perceive the physical layer, and we can invent the higher layers. And I'm intentionally, willingly, in on purpose, trying to get underneath all of the presuppositions. I'm trying to.
There's no point in doing that.
It's the only point.
The
It's
presuppositions
the
are
most
necessary.
important point. Presuppositions, yeah, we used to presuppose the Bible, and that was bad. Mr. Michael Knowles presupposes the Bible as being true. And I want to get underneath that. I want to be like, okay, well, how do we know it is? Where do we get what's underneath that? And the farthest layer I can get down to is the physical. So that's why I've drawn it here at the bottom. Iron exists. It has certain properties. And if we measure iron, we have gone into the metaphysical. If there are 2 lumps of iron, and then 2 more lumps of iron, metaphysically, there are now 4 lumps of iron. Most things exist within that metaphysical. Are you disagreeing with that?
You and I may have a fundamental disagreement on. Actually, I know that we have a fundamental disagreement on the theory of forms.
Okay.
Um,
Sounds like a physical disagreement, but what is the theory of forms? Actually, theory would become a definition and put it in the metaphysical. But what is the theory of forms?
I think that there is such a thing as the essence of something, and this is why I said we're going to have to go all the way back to Plato,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just because I say the word chair and I point at the chair, and somebody who doesn't speak the same language as me looks at it, they also can recognize that this is a chair in whatever language that they speak, but
Mm-hmm.
the form of the thing is still the same, right?
I mean, yeah, physically, on the physical layer, the
So,
chair is still made out of the same thing. If I call it a chair and it is made from wood and plastic, and then a Chinese-speaking person calls it a blankety blank, it is still the same wood and the same plastic. The physical hasn't changed.
yes. And so, in terms of forms, when a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? Or nobody hears it. Did it make a sound?
Did it create waves within the oxygen molecules? Yes, I suspect that it did create waves within the oxygen molecules.
I will say that it created a sound.
Okay.
That is what sound is,
Okay.
right?
But if nobody heard it, is it a sound? This is very basic. If nobody heard it, is it a
Yes.
sound? Okay. By your definition, and I would probably agree with that definition. That seems fine to me, to say that sound is any uh, reverberations within the air molecules. Did it make a
So like
noise? I would say yes, it made a sound. Did it make a noise? I would say no.
so picture a triangle in your mind.
There's a triangle. Got it.
All right. Now, if I draw that triangle on a chalkboard,
Mm-hmm.
it is most likely not going to be a perfect triangle.
I would agree.
Okay. So it is only the intelligibility of the form triangle, the perfect iteration of it that you have in your head, that allows us to know that the drawing on the chalkboard is a triangle.
I comprehend it as a triangle, sure.
It's only the understanding there that we understand that it is a triangle, and that the triangle that you have in your head is perfect and unchanging. It's the essence of what a triangle is. And
I,
so when we perceive something,
mm-hmm.
when I draw that triangle on a chalkboard, the only reason that you know that it's a triangle is because you have a perfect idea of a triangle in your head, and then my triangle that I create that's not perfect, you can still recognize it as a triangle.
You're describing definitions in the metaphysical layer, but okay, great.
Well, no, I'm suggesting that the idea of the triangle in your brain, we
Mm-hmm.
know what a triangle is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a thing that exists. We have given it a definition, and
Okay, great,
we've described it as, a polygon with 3 sides,
great.
right?
Metaphysical. Go on.
So that part is metaphysical to you, but
Yes. Yes, literally. You've just described the word definition. I put the word definition right there on metaphysics for a reason, because all definitions are metaphysics. All of them, literally all of them. Describing the number of sides of a polygon, metaphysical. What's a side? What's a polygon? Metaphysical questions. almost everything fits within that metaphysical box. You and I describing whether or not something is a triangle is a metaphysical discussion.
Is it subjective?
Is it subjective? That's why I drew the line right there, because it starts with objective and then it becomes subjective. I could look at the triangle you drew. Objectively, you drew it with chalk on a chalkboard. That object exists. And I could say, that's not a fucking triangle, man. This is now subjective. I have taken the objective reality of the chalk on the chalkboard and said subjectively, I don't think that's a triangle. And if you want to disagree with me, if you and I are going to have a metaphysical discussion, we are going to discuss the definitions of triangle. You are going to describe to me why that is a triangle. And I'm going to either agree with you or disagree with you. And if I start to agree with you, then we can move on to the next higher step, is the ethics of triangles.
I think that, as I continue to say,
Mhm.
In order for us to have such a discussion in the first place, we have to agree on certain presuppositions.
And
Such
what
as,
is that? What? Like what?
we have to agree that we're both seeing the same things. That
Physical. Yes. We have to agree on the
that
physical before we can move on to the metaphysical. I agree.
well, no, that's even that under your definitions would not be uh, an agreement in terms of the physical. That would be because, again, you have to have the light, go through your retinas, and your brain has to process it. So your perception of it is subjective,
Right.
which I
And
presuppose. So I am presupposing there then, and so are
okay.
you, that we are both seeing the same thing. We're processing it the same way,
Okay.
and we are
I don't
seeing.
have any evidence to the contrary. You and I physically are in a space and we're looking at a triangle drawn onto a chalkboard. I don't have any physical reason to doubt that you can see it. I don't have any physical reason to doubt that you're seeing something that I'm not. So we're seeing the same thing. We can discuss that. We can talk to each other and be like, hey, you see that fucking triangle there? And you could be like, yeah, that's not a triangle. We've just gone from the physical to the metaphysical.
We understand what a triangle is, right?
Only because we have a definition and we've been taught metaphysically
Even
what a fucking triangle is, man.
even
You're
if
not born knowing what a triangle is. Nobody
even
is.
if somebody who doesn't speak our language saw the triangle on my chalkboard, would they understand it to be a triangle in whatever language it is that they understand it to be?
If someone who doesn't speak English was in the same room and they saw a triangle on a chalkboard, they could recognize it as a three-sided polygon. Sure. They would have different words for it, but they would comprehend it as a triangle. Yes.
Okay. So that is the theory of forms, essentially.
That everybody recognizes triangles, or that everybody has an understanding of certain shapes.
That there is an essence of something that makes it that thing.
Great. You want to define essence for me? Because I think that essence is a very metaphysical discussion. The essence of chair is very metaphysical. The essence of hot dog is metaphysical. I'm not saying that essence is a bad term. I'm saying that it is within that metaphysical box right there. I looked up the word essence and I got a bunch of philosophers on my screen. Is that essence up for debate?
I don't think so.
I think everything is up for debate.
Yes, nothing has any meaning to you, and everything is subjective.
Right. That's not only do I think that's correct, I think that's the correct stance to take. I think that is the correct starting point.
Well, I guess the whole left feels that way. I mean,
To an
it makes
extent,
sense then
yes.
that words to the left don't have meaning
They have whatever
if
meaning
nothing
we want
else
them
has
to
meaning.
have. We want them to have meaning, they'll have meaning.
What you are advocating for is chaos and confusion.
Not if we can all get together and agree. I've
The
just
getting
drawn.
together and
I've
agreeing on those
literally drawn.
meanings,
Getting
you then, if you do that, you then have to have everybody accept and agree to those meanings, and then
right,
use
right,
those,
right,
and then follow those meanings, right?
right. You're almost there. You're working
We're
the
presupposing.
my man. You're working this chart right now. You're working it right now. We've all discussed the metaphysical, the definition of triangles. We've discussed those the meanings of these words. We are discussing the definitions. Fantastic. You and I have had a metaphysical discussion about the word triangle. What ethics should we draw from that discussion we had? What morality should we have about the thing we just discussed, metaphysically speaking?
Is it good or bad that we adhere to the meanings of words once we have all agreed upon them?
I think that's good. That's an
Okay, so
ethic I
would you
have.
think that it's bad to use the words in ways that are improper because it causes confusion and chaos?
That would be a bad ethic or a bad moral, yes.
Why does the left do that so much then?
Because the right is wrong about the metaphysical.
Oh yeah?
I think the right is wrong about metaphysics, my man. So I'm going to not. Why would I if I think now follow me here. Follow me for a moment. I think that the right is wrong in the metaphysical layer right here. Why would I bother arguing at the top at the law? Not going to argue with what the law is. That is a waste of time. Let's get down to the bottom. Let's
Let's do
get
that
down to
with
the
our definitions.
metaphysical with
I'm
our
gonna press you on this one.
definitions.
Uh-huh. What is an assault weapon?
That is a definition of a certain type of weapon.
One that continues to change.
Yes, it does. It sure the fuck
As
does. Who's
people,
changing it?
as the left is.
Oh,
As the
the
left
right isn't
continues to
changing it?
have their whims.
Great. Guess what? The minute a Democratic politician puts out a law against assault weapons and gives it a definition, some gun nut is going to shave 2 centimeters off of their gun and it won't be an assault weapon anymore. They changed the definition. The right changes definitions of assault rifles. Yeah, they do. The left changes
No,
that
they don't.
definition as well. Yes, they do. The left changes the definition as well. They both use different definitions. And if we can't agree on the metaphysical definitions, why would we ever agree on the ethics or the politics or the law? That is the purpose of this entire chart. That is why I created it. Because you and I disagree here, we will never, ever agree up top. If we if we disagree below the metaphysical, if you and I disagree on the physical, then we can't ever come up with laws. We can't ever cobble together some sort of law society. We have to have metaphysical discussions. You and I have been having metaphysical discussions on this thing for a very long time.
I think that I still disagree with the placement of your objective and subjective lines, but I could agree with this chart as a flow chart for arguments.
Okay, because if you and I cannot agree if it's wood or metal, how are we ever going to move forward? Which is why you and I often come down here to the metaphysical and discuss definitions. You are right to bring up assault weapon. Assault weapon has a definition to one person and a different definition to another person. This is a metaphysical disagreement.
All right.
Do you agree that it is a metaphysical disagreement?
Now, maybe, but my overarching point is that once we have gotten to the top, we've created a law that says an assault weapon is illegal, and we give it a very specific definition.
Mm-hmm.
And your proposed gun nut shaves 2 centimeters off of his weapon.
He has now changed the definition. Yeah.
No, he has not.
He's
He has
changed
not
the
changed
definition.
No.
What if
He
the
has
definition
modified-
includes
Hold on.
the length? What if the definition includes length?
Wait. No, what I'm saying is that when he shaves that 2 centimeters off, is that still an assault weapon or not?
According to the definition, no.
According to the letter of the law,
changed the definition, right?
He has not changed the definition. He has modified his weapon to fit the category of not an assault weapon.
Okay, so okay.
And if
All
we
right.
all agree, if we have created a law where we all agree that this is what an assault weapon is,
And then
and
okay,
we
you're right.
look at that gun
He's
and
changed the
it does
physical.
not have the physical properties that are established as being an assault weapon,
Okay, so he's
is it an assault weapon or not?
that's why I don't use the term. How often have you heard me use the term assault
No,
weapon?
no. To answer
Never.
the question, I didn't ask you
No,
to
it's
use the
not a
term.
physical. No, it's not
It's
anymore.
not an
According to that
assault weapon,
definition, right?
objectively.
Objectively, he has objectively shaved 2 centimeters off, and now it no longer fits the definition of metaphysically an assault rifle. He has not changed the definition.
Correct. So
I agree.
he understood the definition. He changed the physical property of the weapon,
Right.
and we can objectively say we are now measuring
We're
an
measuring.
action that was taken. We're measuring a physical object, right,
We're measuring
against
it.
a framework that we have just created,
Got it. Yes.
right? Why are we not able to do that for morality?
We can do that for morality.
Then there is such a thing as objective morality.
No.
Yes.
The term assault weapon is subjective. You just proved the subjectivity of the word assault weapon. You just proved the subjectivity of it. You just did
And then
it.
you said,
Yes.
that once we give it a definition, that
Right.
is the definition that we're following, right? Because we
If
all agree as a society to do that.
you can disagree with
we've come up with a
definitions,
norm.
we can.
You can
It
disagree
becomes
with it,
it becomes a societal norm. Yeah, great. We have
but
decided
the
that
fact
these
is that
weapons are that.
the fact is that we still can make an objective measurement of whatever action is taken and
No,
measure it against that law
that's not
and
objective. It's
objectively
subjective.
say, hey, you broke the law.
Yes, by shaving those 2 centimeters off, you have changed the physicality. You are trying to avoid the definition, and that might be illegal if we want it to be. If we subjectively choose to make that illegal. The definition of an assault rifle in this situation is subjective. The person who did it, who shaved the 2 inches off, is being physical and changing so that it no longer meets the definition.
I think that
The
words
definition is subjective. You've proven that it's subjective, and I can tell you you're subjectively wrong for shaving those 2 centimeters off, and I can subjectively suggest that the law be updated. I have
So once
subjectively,
we
yeah,
have
sorry,
created a framework,
frameworks.
even one that you think is subjective, because we can change the framework,
All frameworks are subjective. All
it
of them.
is objective that someone violates that framework if they do. Right?
No. Subjectively, I'm telling you that he has violated that framework. It's a subjective thing that he has subjectively violated. And I can subjectively tell you that I think he ought to be punished for it. I feel like he should be. That's all subjective. Everything is subjective. Everything above this line is subjective. Are you interested in hearing a Terry Pratchett quote? Okay, so this is from a Terry Pratchett book. It's a fantasy book, but fantasies are still important. So you're saying humans need fantasies to make life bearable. And then the Grim Reaper says humans need fantasy to be human, to be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. Because that's what we are. We're just animals trying to be better. And then the Grim Reaper says, take the universe, grind it down to its finest powder, and sieve it through the finest sieve, and show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. You act as if there's some rightness in the universe which may be judged. And I don't think there is. There is no molecule of mercy. There is no atom of justice. But these things are real and they're important.
Say that again?
There is no atom of justice. There is no molecule of mercy. But it is still real. Justice exists. Mercy is real. It exists. But it can't be measured on the atomic level, you know?
It doesn't have to be, and the fact that it exists makes it objective.
No, the fact that it exists means it's subjective. Objective justice does not exist. It is a subjective thing. Objective are things that are facts that you can measure. You cannot measure mercy. That
I
makes
think
it
you've.
subjective.
I sus. Well, actually, what's this author's name?
This is Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett.
Hmm.
Uh, a part of me suspects that you've actually got the point. You've actually missed the point of the passage, but without knowing the greater context of it, um, I think you maybe have missed the point.
Because he's saying that this is objectively real. He's telling you that it can't be objective. There are no atoms of justice. Hence, justice is not an object. It is not objective. It is fantasy. But it's a valuable fantasy. It's an important fantasy. It is a worthy fantasy.
All
Mercy
right,
is a
label it,
worthy
and
fantasy.
it's time to cut this one off.
Okay. All right. We've gone for a very long time. I appreciate you sticking around as long as you have, Kyle. I apologize for the tech problems. I will try and wrestle with those later. Um, I appreciate it. And we had a very big metaphysical debate today. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.